Okay. This coming Sunday is the sixth Sunday of the Easter season. Our text is Luke 18, 1 to 8, the story of the persistent widow. Yeah, and as I was thinking about this, I don't really have an introduction prepared, but I'll just say that as I was thinking about the questions for the guidance this time, I was just thinking about how so often change takes such a long time, and um, the oppressed are oppressed for a very, very, very long time. So, what can we learn from this woman who is approaching somebody um, who is in power, who is not a God-fearing person, who is yeah, he has no respect for people or for God. And yet she keeps coming. She keeps coming to seek justice. And how can we do the same? And it might take a long, long, long time, but persistence is key. I think that's what Jesus was getting at in this parable. Um, I did think I wanted to read something from Gaffney, but oh, um, she said for her text note, she says, the justice the widow seeks in verse 3, ekdikeson, includes the notion of vengeance. Her adversary, one possible translation of antidiku, can also be understood as a plaintiff or accuser who has brought legal charges against her. In Luke 18:5, the corrupt judge uses a bit of dramatic hyperbole with the word hypopiazo, meaning to blacken the eye. While most translations treat the expression as euphemistic for wearing him out, the BDAG, Greek English lexicon of the New Testament and other early Christian literature, lists as its first meaning to blacken an eye, to give a black eye, to strike in the face, of a woman who is driven to desperation and who the judge in the story thinks might to the end express herself physically. So this is a woman who's so intense in her passion that she could actually use physical violence against this man of power, this corrupt man of power. So, yeah, I think that just adds a little bit of depth to this parable. It kind of does what parables do and punches you in the gut. To use another physical violence metaphor. So let's go ahead and get set up here to get my candle going. All right. I'll pray for our graces. To know Jesus more intimately, to love him more intensely, and to follow him more closely. Luke 18, 1 to 8. Jesus told the disciples a parable about the need to pray continually and not be discouraged. He said, there was a judge in a certain city who neither feared God nor respected people. There was a widow in that city, and she came to him continually and saying, grant me justice against my accuser. And he was not willing for some time. But later he said to himself, though I do not fear God, nor respect anyone else. Yet because this widow persists in troubling me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not ultimately come to violence against me." And the Messiah said, "Listen to what the unjust says. And will not God grant justice to the elect of God who cry out to God day and night? Will God forbear in helping them? I tell you all, God will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Woman comes, will he find faith on the earth?" Word of God, word of life. So before I guide you through the passage with questions and pauses, let's take a moment to center ourselves, breathing in God's Spirit and breathing out anything that distracts us from being in the presence of God. I'll pray again for our graces to know Jesus more intimately, to love him more intensely, and to follow him more closely. I invite you to enter the story. You are on your way to Jerusalem with Jesus and his companions. After healing a group of people with skin disease, Jesus spoke about how the coming realm of God would be sudden, disruptive, and like lightning across the sky. Jesus said that people will long for a glimpse of this realm and might be tempted to chase it, but he warned not to be misled. The realm of God is not where people say it is. It is already among you. Now Jesus turns towards you and begins speaking again, teaching you how to press on, how to keep going. Jesus told the disciples a parable about the need to pray continually and not be discouraged. What tone of voice does Jesus use as he begins his storytelling? Being aware that some in your group are becoming discouraged. What emotions do you see in his eyes as he looks at you? What does continual prayer mean to you in this moment? What discouragements or challenges are you facing in your life that you may have held in prayer for a long, long time? And Jesus said, "There was a judge in a certain city who neither feared God nor respected people." As you picture this city in your mind, notice how it looks and sounds and smells and feels. What does the face of the judge look like when they dismiss someone who has come to them for help? How does the judge carry themselves? What does it feel like to live in a place where such a person holds power? There was a widow in that city, and she came to him continually and said, "Grant me justice against my accuser." What does the widow look like as she repeatedly approaches the judge? What do you notice about her demeanor and her resolve? How do you react to her boldness and her desire to avenge her adversary? And the judge was not willing for some time. How long do you imagine the widow kept coming? Days? Weeks? Months? Or even longer? How does it feel to witness the judge's persistent resistance and dismissal? But later he said to himself, "Though I do not fear God, nor respect anyone else, yet because this widow persists in troubling me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not ultimately come to violence against me." How do you react when you hear this judge say out loud that they do not fear God and do not respect humans? What expression does the judge have on their face as they make the decision to grant the widow's request based on their own preservation? What kind of power does this woman have that this unjust judge fears she may blacken their eye, either literally or metaphorically? How does it feel to see that her persistence shifts the balance of power? And the Messiah said, "Listen to what the unjust judge says." As Jesus turns back to the gathered disciples, inviting you to deeply listen to the judge, what stirs in your heart? Why do you think Jesus wants you to pay special attention to the judge's words? What are you meant to notice? And will not God grant justice to the elect of God who cry out to God day and night? Will God forbear in helping them? As Jesus now speaks of God, a very different kind of judge, what emotions do you feel? What cries do you hear in our world that echo this day and night plea for justice? Take a moment to imagine a God who hears every single plea. I tell you all, God will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Woman comes, will he find faith on the earth? As Jesus shifts the focus from God's justice to our faith, ponder how faith shows up in this story. Who demonstrates faith? How might we embody this same faith, of same kind of persistent faith whenever we long for justice? I invite you to spend the next 10 minutes in a colloquy with the divine, speaking to God about what you experienced during this contemplation. What might God want to say to you about your life or the life of your community as it relates to this parable? When I sound my bell, it will indicate that you have about a minute to wrap up your conversation with God. And then I will end the silence by reading this week's psalm. If you're doing this contemplation later with the recording, go ahead and hit pause now and spend as much time in conversation with God as you'd like. And then restart the video whenever you're ready to hear the psalm.